Let's talk about Boyz teen dating violence awareness and prevention curriculum content was derived from reputable study sources that, or evidence-based study sources that have been part of various rigorous research studies and surveys, and provide useful content suggestions for effective dating violence curriculums. And these are just a few of many resources that we used in this series, and some of our resources and content suggestions and information came from the Center of Disease Control, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration, the Advocates for Human Rights, Stop Violence Against Women's Model, United States Bar Associations, the Office of Violence Against Women of the United States Justice Department, and so on and so forth. Now, the core standards of this sessions, you would find the indicators in the back of this guide and the appendix of this guide, but they generally meet pretty much core standards as it relates to the health standards. The anticipated outcome for the series is for the girls to demonstrate certain areas of increased understanding of dating abuse, its causes and consequences, a decreased tolerance of abusive behavior, which is key, increased ability to assess their behavior in a relationship, an increased ability to form and maintain healthy relationships, and increased understanding of their rights and responsibilities under the law. And there's many more. And again, you can take a look at the back of the guide, of your guide as an instructor, to check out the other core standard indicators in terms of anticipated outcome. Now, one of the key factors that I really appreciate in this guide is that this guide teaches the social and emotional learning that, me personally, I highly recommend for children, boys and girls. And I think these factors are so important. Outside of being educated, social and emotional learning is key to them just being well-rounded. And this guide taps into that. Why? Because when we're talking about what connects in our emotional well-being, it is one of them our relationships with others, including dating, including decision-making, including our behaviors. So this one feature is so important because dating, believe it or not, can affect our children for life. The judgment calls, the decisions that they make can affect them for life. And so that is truly key to helping our children, our girls in this particular situation, becoming well-rounded. As in an instructor, and I know some folks fear that title, but you shouldn't. There is no experience required to actually implement this series. Just simply review the materials and just get started. And I've known some individuals review the materials, start on session 1 and start from there. Okay? And you can be as creative as you want to be. This guide is simply no more than a tool that you will use to help communicate with teen girls, and you can use it, the material, and again, you want to be as creative as you can to make it fun, and that's so key. The implementing the program is, again, it's optional. You can do it at home, you can do it at school, you can do it in a juvenile facility for girls, you can do it in specialized programs for girls. You can center it around an event. So let's say Teen Dating Violence Awareness and Prevention month is in February. So let's say you order your guides, get everything set up. So by February, you launch it so you can get started, so that especially in a school, you can start your series, let's say at that month, and end it in June. So it's just up to you on how creative you want to utilize this material. Now, one key aspect that we added in this series is instructors' characteristics. Now, you know, the attraction to this series for girls is that's all they're going to be talking about is boys, okay? And so what you want to do is make this experience as interactive and as fun as possible, okay? And trust me, these girls will get into it. Now, it may be after the first session where they will loosen up. And I found that when I incorporate certain other stimulants into the session, for example, if we're talking about breaking up, say we got an example of a girl who was in an abusive relationship, or it's headed to an abusive relationship, and she wants to break up with this person. Well, we'll add videos, PSAs and videos, relevant videos that address certain examples of, and we also provide some of those videos on the website as well, that you can use, that can work in conjunction with what you're sharing with the girls as far as the topics that you're discussing. We also have the girls take turns reading to get them more involved. So we may have, and we rotate it. Okay, so that's just other ways of doing it. We had an instructor that each session she would intentionally dress up in a specific era. So let's say if, in session 1, she may just dress normal. But in session 2, she may dress out of the 60s or the 70s. And the next era, she may dress up out of the era of the 30s. And she actually finds research material that addresses how women and girls were treated during those eras. There was one situation where she dressed up as an African, specifically from the Maasai tribe of Africa. Okay, and she talked about how those women and girls are treated. Just briefly, just kind of giving just a little bit more than what's added into the session, but she made the sessions a lot more interesting, and also looked at some of the other cultures that these girls can equate to. So being creative is always important. Also, look at social media and what's going on there. We also found news reports of different things that happened to girls when it came to dating violence, when it came to situations that occurred locally. There was a young man at Cass Tech in Detroit who attacked his girlfriend who was a baseball player. He had so far to go in his career. He was, obtained a scholarship, and he was good, but he was very, very abusive. And he was found attacking this girl on the elevator, which had a camera in it, and recorded it. And he ended up losing everything. So we just found all kinds of videos or news reports that were relevant to each topic. So just be as creative as you want to be and have fun. We had an instructor that always lit candles and had snacks or pizza, or just, like I said, made it fun to where they could loosen the girls up to talk about something as intimate as dating. As believe it or not, some of these girls talk about their sexual encounters. Some of these girls share in the group that they're not virgins. And then some girls share that they are virgins. And believe it or not, there are some girls who are not virgins and actually share with a lot of girls in these sessions that it's not wrapped up what having sex is not as big as a hype as they take it to be. It's not. And they share this with these girls, and that's so important, because there's other things that are more important than to become physically intimate with another human being until you know you're ready. And that's the key. All right, so scheduling is very important when it comes to your sessions, and that applies to at home, and it's just as important as in a classroom setting. At home, we suggest that if you do this, you pick a time and a date with your daughter, your granddaughter, your foster child, whoever the child is, and that it's an intimate moment. It could be a girls' night out where you could go to a restaurant and do a session. You could go to a park. You could go anywhere. You could go to anywhere. You can go anywhere with this material to do a session. You could have a situation where you may want to, play soft music and maybe have some candles going, and maybe a chip dip or something, fruit or what have you at home. And also in the classes, in the classroom setting, you want to make it as comfortable as possible. Also, in a classroom settings, some girls like to sit in the back of the class. Bring them forward. And make sure that if you're working with the girls, you want to get everyone involved. And we're going to talk more about that later. You definitely want to make sure that when you're scheduling, you look at the session, your time frame. For example, if you're working in community organization, you definitely, in some of those cases, you're only working with the children, especially during the summer, so many weeks. So you want to get so many sessions in. So let's say the child is coming to you every day of the week. You may want to have it twice a week, 2 hours for each of those days, depending on how long the child is going to be with you, or once a week. And then you select the sessions that's very, very important based on your demographics. And what we mean by that is that, of course, you definitely want to go with the session that addresses dating abuse and violence and the effects. But let's say you have a lot of technology abuse. Girls are being misused on the internet. Or you may have a situation where in your demographics, you have a lot of girls being stalked, or you have a large percentage of girls being unfortunately raped. So you definitely want to work with your scheduling as it relates to the sessions that you want to work with. So that's very, 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 very important, is to connect your scheduling based on what you can do. Now, in a school setting, and depending on the school district, they may consider doing all 14 sessions, and they may do it for 14 weeks or twice a week for 7 weeks. It's just up to the school, and that's key. All right, so week 1, that's the introduction week of your session of your series. You on page 38, you will find your curriculum scope and session sequence and description for each of your sessions, and we're going to see that as we move on in your guide.